Something.
You're on here, in 1, 2, 3, you're on. Here.
What are we
Go
gonna
ahead.
do on taps?
I am adamant about the notes when I'm doing something like this. I don't know, it, I mean, I've got several other classes just in this one.
Yeah, feel free to take notes. I think that's a good idea, because we're going to be writing down
Yeah, I've got to.
A lot of-
You can reference back on YouTube or streaming.
Exactly.
a lot of brain structures today. Well, good evening, and let me welcome our online audience. I'm Vincent Adams, and I'm co-founder along with my lovely wife of SIM, and we're the sponsors of this new meetup group. This is our inaugural meeting, of the Brainiacs, or the Neoplastic Kabbalah meetup group. Okay? We don't need name tags. I know everybody's name. Okay. To start off with, we're going to start off by talking about neuroplasticity first, and then we'll end the evening talking about Kabbalah. And I think it'll become apparent why I'm doing that as we move through the material. First of all, let me say that the brain, as Dr. Ahmed said, is the hardware of the spirit. The brain is the hardware of the spirit. All of us have bought a computer and, or gone to get some software for the computer, and right there on the software package it says, hey, do you have this much mega RAM? Do you have this much hard drive space? Do you have this? Is your screen, will the screen give you this type of resolution for our images? The programs that we buy ask these questions to make sure that the program will run efficiently and effectively, or run it all on whatever type of computer or machine we're trying to load it onto. And what I found out is that, we're really the same way. Some of you are in the law of attraction. Some of you may just call it faith. In Kabbalah, they call it certainty. Whatever program, law of attraction, Christianity, Islam, Buddhist, whatever program you're trying to run on yourself, do you have the hardware to do it? Is the question. And many of us have, we've neglected that for such a long time. Do you have the hardware for law of attraction? Do you have the hardware
I think we do.
for Christianity? You think you do?
Yeah, I think we do.
I'm going to get you to change your mind.
I know we do.
Okay.
We do, I think.
But has it been upgraded? You got enough RAM? You're sure?
I know.
You sure you got enough RAM? You got enough?
Extra storage. Yeah.
Okay. You don't need a plug-in device. You're sure?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
what we do, we clobber too much in there.
No, it's not so much carburing too much. Well, I'll show you. We'll get there.
Okay.
But the main thing is, what are we? What software are we running? And more than that, do we have the capacity to really run that software that we're talking about, whether it's law of attraction or whatever, effectively? And even if we do, we can enhance it. We can give it, some high octane. But we need to figure out, what's going on. Do we really know how to use the machine that we have? Do we know how to use it? Do we know how to optimize it? Do we know what's going on? Do we know how to get it to boot up and run faster? Or do we just put up with the slowdown? Like on our computer, sometimes they're running slow. You got to defrag, or get rid of some viruses and things like that. Only in our case, the viruses are probably just our way of thinking about things in many cases. But I'm going to read something to you, do a little reading, it may be a little bland this time, you know, but anytime you're just doing pure anatomy and that sort of thing, it gets to, it's not very, you know, not too many ways I can make it exciting. Okay, I think I'll start. When information enters our mind through our senses, it first enters a part of our brain called the thalamus, which is a primary area of perception. The thalamus elevates incoming information for relational cues and then quickly relays 5% of the message to the amygdala. Now you're going to hear me talk about the amygdala from now on. It's kind of my little favorite part of the brain. Then it sends 5% of that to the amygdala. 95% of the information then goes forward to the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala reacts quickly and hijacks the rest of the brain with fear. We have 0.25 seconds to overcome the fear and access our prefrontal cortex. That's interesting. Okay? A matter of function. Each section of the brain has been created for its specific function. Prefrontal cortex, to keep us relational. Amygdala, to warn us of danger. When I took my first psych course in college, the professor gave us like a little test in class. He held up the playing cards. And he said, okay, what card am I holding up? And he let everybody see it, you know, it's a black card. And everybody, just about everybody in the classroom said, okay, yeah, that's the ace of spades. Then he held up another one and, you know, looked at that one and people said, oh, that's the ace of hearts, you know. And he said, okay, now, what you thought was the ace of spades was really the ace of hearts, but it was black and not red. And then, you know, the other switch, you know, was vice versa. What we thought was the ace of spades was actually the ace of hearts.
The other way around.
I did it the other.
If they thought it was the ace of hearts, go back to the ace of spades.
Okay. What we thought was the ace of spades was the ace of hearts. Didn't I say that?
On the right.
Okay. And then he showed us the other one, which was red, and it was really, we thought it was the ace of hearts, but it was the ace of spades. I get it right that time? Okay. And so everybody in the whole class missed it. Everybody in the whole lecture hall missed it. And he said, what you have just experienced is he called it some sort of programming that's, you know, that we have, you know, that's innate in us to help us survive. When something looks like something that we think it is, we react to it. And that's a survival trait. Because we know, at one point in time when, you know, your ancestors were in the jungle and they saw something, you know, yellow and green move, you know, out the corner of their eye, they immediately ran away from it. And that was a survival because they knew that the poisonous snake is yellow and green. It doesn't matter that that particular time it was just a yellow and green leaf falling. You know, we don't wait around to find out. As a survival tactic, we just take off because yellow and green moving means that, you know, that yellow and green venomous snake. And so that's what the amygdala is for. The amygdala, you know, is going to get just a little bit of information, and it's going to, right away, make you do something. I'm going to show you something where I think the guy was saying the amygdala has 3 functions. It's either good, bad, or it's scary. And then once the amygdala kicks in, once the amygdala says it's scary, then the hypothalamus is going to get the message, hey, tell the adrenal glands they better get their behind in gear, okay? Tell the pineal, you know, tell all these guys to give me the juice because we got to move, you know, we've got to get going. Something is coming after us And we don't have time to wait around for the prefrontal cortex and their slow-moving molasses behind to let us know what it is. Okay? And so, wham, we're off. The amygdala has hijacked. The amygdala is only about as big as our thumb. And I think the name in Greek means almond shape because it's like a little almond right in here. But it can hijack the whole brain in an instant. And while, we're running full speed, until we, out of breath or think it's safe to turn around, we look at it, it was just some leaves. The prefrontal cortex goes, it was just some leaves, dummy. You punk. Go back. Good thing the girls aren't here. So, my goodness, how are we going to get a girlfriend with, you acting this way or something, So the amygdala can hijack everything in our thoughts and in our thinking. And it's the seat of our emotions. But more importantly than that, maybe not so more, I shouldn't say more importantly, but in addition to being the seat of our emotions, it also controls and regulates the body's hormonal system through its connection with the hypothalamus. So if you've got an amygdala that is always firing, that is always, on alert, that means you're always producing those alert chemicals, cortisone, the adrenals are kicking out, adrenaline and all this other stuff. The only thing about cortisone and all these other hormones and things that, help you, lift a lot of weight or, get ready for some real action is poisonous to the body in long dosage. It's only meant to be used in emergency. You don't want this system kicking in 24/7. And unfortunately, in most people live their life in the flight or fight. They're always there because they have the wrong thoughts entering into the amygdala. And, it may not, right now, some people, people that are fearful of crowds or certain situations or being in social situations, the amygdala has them actually in fight or flight, and they don't even know it. It's the same thing as you turn on your car. The engine is idling, getting warmed up. You're getting ready to put it into drive or reverse. But instead of putting it in drive or reverse and going on your way, you start to rev the engine. You can rev it a little, or you can really rev it a lot. When you're in fight or flight, that's what you're doing. You're not going anywhere, but you're still revving the engine. And everybody knows you should only let your car even idle without revving maybe 15 minutes in the winter to let it warm up. Imagine if 24 hours a day you're revving your engine. You're going to burn something out. Something is going to pay the price of that revving that engine. And that's exactly where most people are, where a lot of people are in their brain. So when you're doing that, it's difficult to put that program in there from law of attraction. Because that revving is, I don't care what, you tell yourself. The thalamus is going to hear, when you, say the lecture on law of attraction, do this, say this positive thing, say that positive thing. Then all of that is nice, but the amygdala is in, flight or fight, and it's revving the engine. It's negating everything that law of attraction or Christianity or faith or Buddhism or anything else is telling you. It's negating it. And the problem is, in a lot of cases, the reason why you're in flight or fight can go all the way back to the womb, from the time that you were conceived. It can go back that far, or some other trauma that happened. And until you deal with that trauma in some way, until you're able to tell the amygdala, you know, to get control back from the amygdala, get it out of, you know, the hypothalamus, get it back into the prefrontal cortex, okay, where you can say, no, that was just a green and yellow leaf, everything is fine, there is no danger, I can carry on with what I was doing. I can go ahead with my daily activities. I can study this new material to help me get a promotion, to help me get a new job, or to help me in my relationship, to help me be more relational with people and not reactive. Anybody know anybody that you got to watch everything you say to them? You know, because they take everything the wrong way, and you know they're quick to go off on you or get upset. They're in fight or flight. They're just waiting for something to happen, for someone to come along and say hi. You know, what do you mean hi? Are you playing with me or something? You know, I mean, that's not even an exaggeration. Some people, you know,
Very, very
just like that. You can't even, you know, say hello. You know, I don't. In my profession, I have to go down to City Hall a lot and deal with, you know, government employees. Yeah, I can go up to them sometimes. Can you pull up a file such and such and such and such? And I can get my head torn off sometimes. I've had it happen. You know, I'm like, what in the world did I just say? You know, I just asked for a file, and the person is just all over me. You know, they're in fight or flight. They're waiting. I mean, they're just, you know, waiting to take off. Let me read a little bit more. Like I say, I'm really a fan of the amygdala, but let me read a little bit more. Okay, the thalamus to create attachment. I already said the amygdala warns us of danger. The cingulate is another area in the brain to synchronize with the external world. Since the fall, with the subsequent breakdown of relationships, okay, I'll skip that part. Okay, well, I'll go ahead. Since the fall, they're talking about the fall of Adam and Eve, with the subsequent breakdown of relationships, many of us have difficulty living from the prefrontal cortex. Because, you know, that was the beginning of the breakdown of relationships between people. Because what did Adam say was Eve's fault? You know, what did Eve say? Hey, it was the snake's fault. Now, okay, everybody is, you know, pointing the finger, you know, so we don't have the proper relationship to one another anymore ever since the fall. Okay? We rely on the amygdala to lead our actions. Ever since the fall, we've gotten out of the prefrontal cortex, and people are living from the amygdala instead of the prefrontal cortex. You know, and that's just a state of fear. You know, we just go from one level of fear to the next. Okay. Man's defense, the amygdala, functions as a guard shack for it stores emotional perceptions that occur each time a memory is built. Now, here's where we talk about the subconscious. When we get a memory that becomes subconscious, and we can no longer access this memory through the conscious mind, that memory becomes extremely dangerous to us. Because if it's a bad memory, if it contains trauma of any kind, it is working behind the scenes in the subconscious. The amygdala is still working on the amygdala, and it's keeping you or that person in fight or flight, and they don't even know it. You know, that's why psychiatrists and psychologists and life coaches can make a little money these days. because people don't even know what program is playing. See, when we talk about this hardware system, that's really a good analogy. What program is running on your computer? A lot of us don't even know what program is really running. We think we're running law of attraction. Maybe we're even, standing in the mirror every morning. I am confident. I am secure. Whatever, life-changing program you're trying to, do to become, better at life and that sort of thing, and say those positive confessions we say in Christianity, the positive confessions, recite these scriptures, okay? Make these positive confessions, these positive affirmations, okay? We're saying that, but 24/7, the amygdala is receiving another message from the subconscious, from memories that have been pushed down into the subconscious, suppressed. Okay? What happened when we were conceived? What happened when we were in the womb? Was that a good time for mommy? Was mommy an unwed mother? Was mommy worried about, social concepts of, and constructs of her time? Was there any fear in mommy at conception or during the pregnancy? Did mommy go through any trauma? Did mommy worry whether or not she could take care of you? Would there be, enough food on the table? Would there be a roof on your head, over her head? What fears or worries did she have during those at conception? Now you may say the brain is not formed at conception, but your spirit is formed immediately at conception. And the spirit will remember everything, and when your brain does get formed, then it will inform the brain and the amygdala of the trauma that mommy is going through, of what mommy is experiencing. Or even after you're born, what is going on in mommy's life? Did you come into a loving home? Did mommy want you? Did mommy think about abortion? Okay, or not having you? Or did she just simply wish for a while that she wasn't pregnant? Was it the right time in mommy's career? Even if she was married, did mommy go, oh, shucks, I wanted to, go up the corporate ladder? What does that do, what does that do to the embryo? I don't like saying the embryo, the baby. How does that make the baby feel? Mommy can't make up her mind whether or not she wants me or she wants a new promotion. All of that is being fed into the baby while the baby is in the womb. So that's traumatizing to the baby. Is the baby going to remember that at age 25 when he's trying to get along with his people on the job and form the type of relationships that lead to healthy interaction and help you move up the corporate ladder and that sort of thing? And you don't know why, these people, they don't know why they can't get along with people. They don't know why they can't sustain, a positive relationship. Why everything ends this way or that way. And they say, most people don't go into therapy until maybe mid to late 30s or early 40s. Yeah, because that's usually the time where the individual just can't stand it anymore. They've had so many failed relationships. They've been divorced 2 or 3 times. They're not moving up on the job, and they're sick of it. They can't stand themselves anymore. you know, when you're in your teens and you're in your 20s and things like, you know, everybody is all right when they're by themselves. There's no conflict when you're by yourself. You don't have to get along with anyone. It's when you try to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or you try to get a career, and you gotta figure out a way to relate to everybody, you know, in the office or on the job site, that we start having problems. And, you know, that's not going to happen more likely until your mid to late 20s. You know, where you're going to have, you know, you're probably going to see problems. Then by the mid 30s, early 40s, you're either successful at it or you're terrible at it, or you want to do something about it. Everybody that I saw in Law of Attraction last week, I think was over 30. Probably even over 40, I should say. Seriously. There was no teenagers there. There was no, maybe one young adult. He might be in his mid-20s or something. Maybe one. You know, 99% of the people there were well over 30, I would say. Maybe even well over 40.
That group changes all the time too. I have seen a lot of young people.
You've seen a lot of young people?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe
It
it.
just changes all the time. I mean, I only go every once in a blue moon. So.
But I do know one stat is true. When people enter therapy. Now, one thing, okay, you say there are younger people there, you know, different crowds move in and out. People are more aware now, younger, you know, at a younger age about their mental health. You know, probably back when I was coming up, hey, you know, nobody even thought about it, okay, during the 70s and 80s. You know, everybody was either smoking weed or too coked out. They didn't even worry about a thing. But when people do go into therapy, though, it definitely late 30s, early 40s, around that time, because that's when everything just starts to cave in. You know, am I going to get, women are, am I going to get married? Am I ever going to meet anyone? Am I ever going to be able to blah, 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 blah? And, the guys are, I'm on my second wife, I can't seem to hold a marriage together or family together or this, whatever, So these are the reasons why. It comes down to neuroscience and neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity, that means simply we can change all of those patterns. Those neural pathways that lead to fear and anxiety, which trips the amygdala to signal the hypothalamus to begin that journey, we can form new neural pathways that lead to calming of the amygdala and activation of the frontal cortex so that we can reason and rationalize our way through things and not react to everything that happens in the environment. Okay? Let me finish reading this, okay? So, still on the amygdala. Contains a huge library storing all the emotional perceptions developed from womb to the present. Is responsible for the first emotional response to any thought. I really should say any thought or any stimulus. Okay? Prepares mind to create memories. Scans incoming information and identifies as good, bad, or scary. Okay? Now, how do we return to joy? In order to live from our joy center, which is also the relational center, we must observe the following. Obstacles and blockages that have prevented the development of trust and healthy attachment styles, belief systems formed from attachment wounds, self-protective measures, ability to return to joy from the 6 negative emotions. We must choose to be relational. Okay? What else I want to get in here? Avoid anxious, attachment, assessing your attachment style, attachment prayer, There's some centerpiece for the context. Okay. The role of emotion. Okay, let's talk about the role of emotion real quick. Emotion is connected to the right hemisphere of the brain. Okay? We all know about, on this side of, on our right, if we take our right hand, put it on top of our side of our head, that's the right hemisphere. Take our left hand, put it on the left side of our head, that's the left hemisphere. Okay? We all know that the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere controls the right arm. It's crossed. We also know, we talk about right brain individuals and left brain individuals. A right brain individual is someone who's going to be creative, artistic, musical, that sort of thing. A left brain individual will be someone who is going to be very calculating, good with numbers, a good thinker, someone who works, problem solver, that sort of thing, facts, figures. So the emotional side of us is the right. That's the relational side. The left hemisphere, if I go through a detailed analysis of something, it's the left hemisphere that's going to pick that up and remember step 1, step 2, step 3 is this, step 4. The same concept, if I say, hey guys, everyone has a model in front of you. I want you to take that up. I want you to feel it. I want you to touch it. I want you to unscrew this, unscrew that, put this back together this way and put this back together. That's the right hemisphere. The right hemisphere learns by actually hands-on and doing it. Okay? The left hemisphere wants a lecture. They want what's step 1? What's step 2? That's me. I want step 1. I want step 2. I want step 3. And I want the final step. Okay? And then I'm going to go step 1. Turn this way. Okay? And step 2. Then I'm going to go through that. And then, then the right hemisphere catches up to the left with me. Okay, now I can do this, from the right. Or both, contributing information. Now, when you're putting something together sometimes, you say, hey, that ain't right. That don't feel right. That's the right hemisphere. The right hemisphere remembers what it felt like when you had it just right. And so the right hemisphere sometimes say, hey, that ain't right. I don't even feel right. You go back and do it again. And so maybe you say, okay, you go back to the left hemisphere and say, what was step 1 again? Okay, yeah, okay, I got that right. What was step 2? What was step 3? Oh, step 4, this is, okay. Now, oh yeah, that's good, yeah, I got it, Right, now you satisfied the right hemisphere. You finally got it, everything the way it should be, okay. Okay, emotion is connected to the right hemisphere of the brain, and it is recorded there, implicitly, from the womb to the present. As parents interact with us in emotional events, we record their abilities and reactions. We need caretakers who are able to reconnect with us shortly following any negative incident. After you spank your kids, when things calm down, you gotta go back and talk to them and say, I don't hate you or anything, I just want you to, to be more responsible and to do this and to do that. You got to show them you still love them and that sort of thing, And
You have to remember that some people do not believe in spanking their kids.
okay, some people. Well, I didn't say you have a guilty conscience. Did I say spank? I said a negative event, didn't I?
No, this is spanking. Yeah, you can spank.
I said spanking.
Maybe we just connect.
Okay, I thought I said a negative event.
Telling us that connecting negative punishment with spanking.
Okay. Well, I guess give it away. We believe in spanking, or yelling or whatever,
All you have to do is yell.
You know, so, whatever, but, it's funny, you know, legally, you can't spank your kids anymore. But if they go out of the house and get in trouble with the police can beat them senseless. And that's okay. You know, they can tase them, they can beat the crap out of them. That's all right. But if you take a belt to their behind, you can go to jail for, 8 to 20. I didn't make that up. I've been, in Oklahoma, that they're doing that to people. They tell them they can get 20, and the DA offers them, the DA, wants them to take a deal for 8. So, I don't know about that. That just seems to be kind of odd to me. The police can beat the crap out of them, but you can't spank them on the bottom. Okay. Society is kind of whack to me, lately, or whatever. But, that's kind of, the basics of structure. But I'm going to play this boring segment for you right now. But it's very good, this is a great segment for the left brain. The right brain is not going to like it. Yeah.
What was the spelling for the, what was the word?
Amygdala? Okay.
A-M-Y.
Okay, I got it right here. Oh, she can spell. She's right brain spelling.
Well, I'll just go.
A-N-Y-G-D-A-L-A. A-N-Y-G-D-A-L-A. Some people, say, just call it Amy. You might see in some books it might be called the diencephala in some books, but generally you can find it under amygdala. It's right here on the side, deep in, and it's just a little bigger than, like an almond or your thumb. Not very big at all. You're going to see this, but let me pass this around, and you can see some of the parts on here.
Ready to put on the, whenever you're ready to put it on, aim it.
Yeah, I'm ready. You can put it on the TV.
You sure?
Yeah, because we're going to be listening to him. You see the thalamus there, that receives, that's where it comes in. And then you see the amygdala, then the hypothalamus, and then the frontal cortex, and then you see another thing, they call that the banana, the singular.
You have a volume on yours or not?
Oh, it's picking up where I left off, so you may not have to go to the boring part.
You want to rewind and check your volume. Okay.
Welcome to Restart.
Turn it up.
This week's topic is
I'm trying to, it won't let me, there we go.
Is the volume control on the screen?
For a second.
Says I'm at 100%.
No, it's on the video.
That's right.
Low.
You see a shot full of holes. Now, if you actually look at the brain, there will be brain tissue there.
Oh, okay.
What you're looking at is a lack of activity. That brain is not in use. After a year of sobriety, however, you'll notice that there's a lot more of the brain working, but it's not the same as what you had if you have a normal, healthy brain. Sobriety doesn't give you back a normal brain. If you look at the brain from the top, you see there's also a bunch of holes that after your sobriety.
I want to go back to the beginning, and it's not letting me.
Okay. This,
Hold on, let me see.
love this screen.
Now I'm at the beginning.
Is that where you wanted to be?
Yeah, because he's going into parts of the brain and he
I hope
hasn't
that your
gone
life
over
and your love
the
is
anatomy.
full and thriving. Bless you.
This is Mr. Rogers on the neurologist.
Beginning? So, my doctor, I got no happen, right? You heard about the
A few years ago, he was on PBS like crazy, talking about the Brainiacs. It acts so funny. If I hit a button, it skips 3 chapters down.
That was the ending, but, okay, see, that was the ending, I knew it.
No, it was not the ending of it,
Oh,
right there.
okay.
Believe me, I've already been through this
You know,
afternoon. You guys gonna hate green leaves.
Hi, I'm Ed Corey, and welcome to Thriving, Recover Your Life. If you're an addict, Thriving will help you learn a unified approach to understanding addictions and also help you develop the 19 brain skills that your brain needs so that your recovery will be thriving. If you are a person who's been living in pain from the trauma of abandonment, neglect, or just bad things that have happened over time, Thriving will teach you simple and effective healing processes that will make your life different. And if you want to learn to grow in Christian character, Thriving will help you build a character and identity that is joyful. Your entire life, everything about you will be thriving. Thriving Recover Your Life as a unique training flow. Restarting is designed to help you jumpstart your recovery from trauma or from addictions, or begin recovery for the first time. Forming is a discipleship program that helps build a Christian identity that is joyful. Belonging helps create joyful community and helps us practice the 19 brain skills that we need to thrive. In healing, we learn to experience the presence of God in a way that helps us heal. Loving helps us take everything we learn throughout the entire thriving process and apply it to relationships with those we care about the most. As you complete loving, you and the people that you love can begin to build joy and brain skills and bonds together. And if the people you love are in too much crisis, there is a special thriving crisis unit to help them stabilize so that they can begin to build joy with you. You and the people you love and your entire community can be thriving. For handouts, for more information about thriving, visit our website at www.thrivingrecovery.org. In thriving, you and I are building joyful bonds together. And for that reason, we want to practice all our joy-building exercises in groups of 3 to 5 people. This will keep you safe as your life is restarting. Welcome to Restarting. I am glad that you're here with me. For some of you, this will be the first time that you've ever explored what recovery really means. And for others of you, you want your recovery to restart. You want it to really thrive. And you'll find that here. Some of you are here because you have been working on issues related to addiction, to substances like alcohol and drugs. And others of you are here because you are in a relationship with somebody whose addiction is driving you crazy. And you'll find the support and help you need to change. And others of you are here because you've been working on painful life issues for a long time. And you want your life to really change from the inside out. You want your life to be different. You want it to be full of joy. Well, you have come to the right place. This is the place. You already know that I'm Ed Corey, but there's some things about me that I want to tell you about before we start our journey together. It's been 28 years since I started in healing ministry, working with people in recovery from addiction and from painful life trauma. What you need to know about me is this. I am a person in recovery from both addiction and trauma. The second thing you should know is that over the years, I've worked with all different kinds of phases of treatment, from outpatient counseling to churches to rehab programs, both Christian and secular, jail programs, programs for homeless people. But what really is important is this. I know what it's like to have a family that's devastated because of addiction and trauma. And that leads to places like rehab, jail, prison, and funerals. The third thing you should know is that over the years, I've helped develop programs and write curriculum and helped found programs. I've really tried to do my best to provide excellent care. But you know what really breaks my heart? Sitting down with a new family who's just coming for help or treatment for the first time, and knowing that traditional addiction treatment models offer only a 20% chance of success. And that is just not good enough. The last thing you should know is that I've helped train people to work in addiction ministry for a long time. In fact, over the last couple of years, I've helped train people from over 30 countries to minister to those who are hurting. But a couple of years ago, something really radical happened. And it changed my life. And it changed my life so much, we had to call this thing something. So we called it Thriving, Recover Your Life. Thriving is what we're going to be doing for the next 12 weeks together. You're going to find out all about how your brain will change with joy. Come on, let's go find a place to sit down and start our first lesson. And this first lesson is going to be fun because it's called How is the Brain Organized and What Does It Need? Before we start this week's lesson, let me introduce you to my friend, Dr. Jim Wilder, with this week's three-dimensional living brain moments.
Recent developments in computer imaging and brain scans have allowed us to do something we've never done before. That is, study the inside of a working, living brain in 3 dimensions. By doing that, we've been able to discover which parts of the brain are on and which parts of the brain are off during significant processes. If you look at this brain scan, for instance, looking at it from underneath, a normal brain would be nice and smooth and full. But the brain you're looking at here in this scan has been using marijuana. You have 2 holes where you want to have brain activity right about the front and the top. Looking at the brain from the top, you find that a normal brain would be nice and full and smooth like this, but this brain with methamphetamines is full of holes, just like this one with cocaine, or the alcohol brain. And if you look at the heroin brain, you notice that it is full of holes and goals, because drugs are not good for your brain. For more information on this, we recommend that you go and see the Brain Plates by Dr. Daniel Amen, who graciously allowed us to use these slides for your education. Now for spiritual training, practical practical application, and future recovery. Here's Ed.
Thank you, Jim. Now you're probably wondering, why are we talking about the brain in the beginning of a thriving recovery program? It's a good question. We're talking about the brain because thriving is based on cutting-edge research from Decade of the Brain. It means that we're solution-centered. And in thriving, we're going to be understanding how our brain works so we can apply solutions to help our brain heal. The first thing you have to know about this process is that God created our brain. The Bible says this, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. And then God saw everything he made, and indeed, it was very good." The important thing about this is God says, let us. It means that God is relational. It means that when he made us in his image, he made you and me to be relational people too. And the other really neat thing about this passage of Scripture is it says God saw everything and saw that it was very good. And that includes you, and that includes me. We function best according to our original design when we're in relationship with God and each other, when that relationship is joyful. We're designed so that our brain functions best when it's in secure relationships. David said this, "I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works." And you know what? You and me are part of those works. David goes on to say, "And that my soul knows very well." Now our brain is created with two hemispheres. And those hemispheres are different, but they're designed so that they work together. The brain works best when each side is healthy and the two sides are synchronized. Now, let's learn a little bit about the brain. Take your left hand and put it on the left side of your head. Now, under there is the left hemisphere of your brain, and you can find the other side the same way. Take your right hand, put it on the right-hand side of your head, and under there is the right hemisphere of your brain. Now, it's important to understand the difference because they work differently. I want you to think about the left side of your brain as like a big file cabinet, and it knows things because it can name them. Think about this. Everything that you've heard that's a word, that you've read, all the data that's been stored, is filed into a big file cabinet. If I say the word bark, as in bark from trees, everything you know about tree bark is filed under the B drawer, under the ARK category. And you can recall everything you know that you've read or heard in words about bark on trees. Now the right side of my brain is different. It knows things because it's experienced them. By touching this piece of bark, the right side of my brain knows that it's rough, but it's not smooth. It knows it's splintery. It knows it's thin. It knows it's flexible. It's knowing this because I'm experiencing it. I'm looking at it. I'm touching it. Now, these two hemispheres of my brain are designed to work together so that what I know in my file cabinet about bark matches what I know from the right side of my brain about experience. Let's look a little bit more at the difference between these two sides of my brain. Now, the left hemisphere of the brain is dominant for words and for language. It's a place of stories, a place of descriptions. It's where we come up with explanations. It's where we do logic and reasoning. It's the part of our brain that wants to know what 2 plus 2 is. What's the capital of South Dakota? And how high are the mountains? It is very, very resistant to change. In fact, once it makes up its mind, it will hold on to what it believes to be true in the face of all kinds of contrary evidence. Have you ever wondered why an alcoholic who's lost his family, who's lost his job, who's lost his car, who's lost his house, still refuses to admit that he's an alcoholic? It's because the left side of his brain has decided he can't be an alcoholic. The only time he can change his mind is when the right hemisphere of his brain gets upset enough, when he's having enough crisis and enough pain, his left brain may be open to change its opinion. Now the right side of the brain is different because it's primarily nonverbal. It thinks in images. It thinks in pictures. It thinks about voice tone. It has executive control of the entire brain, and it contains a 4-level control center that we're going to talk about in a minute. That's really important. It is dominant for emotions and for body. It synchronizes and it notices everything. And the right brain is important because it's the part of your brain that helps your left brain change its mind. Now, on the right side of the brain, there's an incredible 4-level control center. And we're going to talk about each one of these levels. Level 1 is where we have attachment. This is the thalamus and the basal ganglia. And these are important because they help us regulate dopamine. And if you know anything about addiction, you know that dopamine is the neurotransmitter that helps us feel pleasure. Addiction is all about dopamine. Level 1 is really important because it's set in relationship with other people. When level 1 is healthy, we move on to level 2, which is the amygdala. The amygdala is important because it helps us regulate adrenaline. The amygdala is pretty simple. It only has 3 opinions about everything. Either things are good, things are bad, or things are scary. Now, if level 1 is set correctly, life will be pretty good. We'll feel a normal amount of pleasure, and the amygdala is going to say to itself, life's pretty good. But if level 1 is not set well, if we don't feel a lot of pleasure, the amygdala is going to decide that life's pretty bad and pretty scary. And that means we'll have a lot of adrenaline floating through our system. Level 3 is the cingulate cortex. This is important because it's the part of our brain that helps us do negative emotions. The cingulate also helps us regulate serotonin. Level 4 is the right orbital prefrontal cortex, and that's a mouthful. But all it means is it's the part of your brain that's directly behind your right eye. And this is an important part of my brain because it's where I know what it's like to be Ed. It's my brain's identity center. It helps me know what it's like to be me. It helps me know what it's like to be you. It helps us focus our attention over time. Now together, this 4-level control center is designed to have executive control over our entire brain for our entire life. And the really amazing thing about how God designed this is that relationships are the building block for the entire brain. The right brain's emotional control center starts developing from birth, and level 1 attachment is the foundation for everything going on in this part of the brain. A healthy control center allows the right brain and the later developing left brain to make smooth and solid and healthy connections between the two. Relationships are the foundation for everything, for health, for integration, and for building joy. This information about the control center in the right hemisphere of the brain comes from the work of Dr. Alan Shore, who's done 3 groundbreaking books. The first is Affect Regulation and Origin of the Self. The second is Affect Regulation and Repair of the Self. And my personal favorite, Affect Dysregulation and Disorders of the Self. All this means is that for healthy development, the brain needs joyful relationships. Isn't this an incredible place to sit down and talk about joy? What does joy mean to the brain? To the brain, joy means relationship. Joy means that we are glad to be together, that you and me are glad when we're together. It means that someone is glad to be with you, that someone's glad to be with you. Now, how do we build joy together? If we build it non-verbally, how does that happen? Let's suppose that I'm seeing you and I'm glad to be with you. As soon as I see you and I'm glad to be with you, there's dopamine released in my right brain. It notifies the left side of my face that something amazing is happening. And I smile. When I smile, your left retinas pick it up and your right brain interprets it and it says, Ed is glad to be with me. And as soon as that happens, there's dopamine released in your brain. It notifies the left side of your face something good's going on.
You smile, my reflexes pick it up, and my right brain goes, yes, they're glad to be with me, I knew it. And I get more dopamine, and the process repeats back and forth. Do you know how fast this takes place? My brain can know if you're glad to be with me in 40 milliseconds. That's faster than I can put words together. You and I share a cycle of back and forth being glad to be together. 6 times a second. That is incredibly fast. Our brain chemistry actually synchronizes. We match. The dopamine in my brain is matched by dopamine in your brain, and back and forth we go. In fact, we have our own private dopamine party, just the two of us, without saying a word. Our brains match structure, match growth. This is authentic, it's truthful, and it's very rapid communication. And each cycle, our emotions amplify. I'm more excited, you're more excited, and I need more and more and more. Back and forth we go. This happens so fast that it feels like you're making me feel happy, you're making me feel good, you're making me feel joyful. Our task for our first year of life is to live and experience ever-increasing levels of joy. In fact, we're designed so that this first year of life we build joy and more and more and more and more. When we do that, we're able to handle increasingly difficult levels and intensity of problems without being overwhelmed. But when our joy capacity is low, we're overwhelmed. Life is painful. What ends up happening is our joy capacity is here, but our pain level's here. And that gap is experienced by our brain as trauma. The deepest level of pain that you and I can experience is attachment pain at level 1 of our control center. Because then we don't know who we belong to, or what's personal to us, or if there's anybody that even cares. When we live in that kind of pain, we have a tendency to do something that gets us in a lot of trouble. We medicate to regulate the emotions and the pain that we just can't handle. 47% of all relapse is due to either positive emotions that overwhelm us or negative emotions that overwhelm us. So how do we medicate to regulate? Let me introduce you to a really important thriving concept, and that's beeps. Because when we medicate to regulate, we use beeps. And beeps are attachments to behaviors, events, experiences, people, and substances that we use to regulate emotions, increase pleasure, or decrease pain. Attachments to beeps are amazing because they help us medicate or artificially regulate emotions that we just can't handle, increase our pleasure and decrease our pain. And the thing about beeps is that they take the place of secure attachments to God and other people. The very places we could go to build joy are the things that beeps exclude from our lives. There are an incredible variety of beeps. There's everything from sex to partying to codependency to cocaine or drugs. There's performance or perfectionism. There's alcohol. There's the computer or internet pornography. There's workaholism. There's money, which is about power and control. There's thrill-seeking behavior. There's gambling. There's control. And one of my very personal favorites, ice cream. There are an infinite variety of flavors of ice cream that can be used as beeps. Since the 1930s, self-help support groups and the 12 steps have helped millions and millions of men and women around the world find sobriety. But Thriving, through advances made in research from the Decade of the Brain, is a program that's designed to help participants become healthy, whole, sober, and mature. Thriving teaches participants the joy and relationship-building skills that the brain needs to heal and remain sober. How do we do this? We do it through the development of secure, healthy attachments with God and others in a mature and life-giving community. See, the problem with beeps is that beeps always promise relief, but they make our lives unmanageable. Step 1 of the 12 steps was this. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol or drugs or beats, and that our lives had become unmanageable. Our lives become unmanageable because our attachments to beats are totally below a level of consciousness. Beats affect the attachment center of the brain. Remember, that's level 1 of the control center. The brain is designed so that dopamine and endogenous opiates, or endorphins, are released when people are glad to be with us. And this is the neurochemistry of joy. But beats form the attachment center. They're clever, they're smart, they're powerful, they're baffling, they're cunning. Beats also trigger the release of dopamine and stimulate the pleasure center of the brain. They mimic genuine, joyful relationships. And in this way, the attachment center is fooled into attaching to beats to regulate emotions, pleasure, and pain. They literally hijack the attachment center of my right brain. The attachment center learns to rely on beats and not healthy attachments with God and others that would produce genuine joy. Beats literally hijack the attachment center. The attachment center learns to rely on beats and not relationships with God and others that would produce genuine joy. In this way, beats fool and hijack the attachment center of the brain. And when beats take over, they grab the cockpit and they take us to places that we never wanted to go. They make our lives entirely unmanageable, and we're powerless. We go where they take us. So recovering our life means becoming connected in joyful relationships with God and others that produce genuine joy and help our brains heal. And that's why we need joy and relationships. And you remember from our lesson that attachment pain is the deepest level of pain we can feel. You're about to watch a video where Dr. Carl Raymond is demonstrating something called the Emmanuel process. And this is exciting because you're going to learn this process on Friday. Carl?
Okay.
Okay.
Hope you didn't find him too boring. Not the most exciting orator or lecturer, but the information, I hope you agree, was really, really good about the areas, of the brain. He talked about the amygdala. He talked about the hypothalamus, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the cingulate, we call that the banana section of the brain. Looks like the shape of a banana. And the right prefrontal cortex, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Now, you heard him mention the right preorbital cortex. They describe that area as being right behind your right eye. What's really important about this area is that if it is developed fully, it allows the development of other areas of the brain. If it is not developed properly, other areas of the brain do not follow suit and fully develop and become fully activated. And this area is stimulated when as you saw him talking about, when you see an individual and they see you, if they're happy to see me and I'm happy to see them, we exchange these facial cues, and it sets off the neurochemical transmitters, which just send dopamine and in the right amounts throughout the brain. Hey, this is great. Anil is here. Wonderful. Kevin is here. Hey, it's going to be a good time now. And we show that we're happy to see one another. And on that level 1 of attachment, that's a nice, healthy relationship. We're getting together for a meetup group or to do some Tai Chi or maybe to go bowling or, whatever hunting, whatever the activity is that we like to do. and those are, you know, healthy relationships. But when we go to drugs, or what he calls beats, to do that, you know, when we use alcohol, and you heard him mention ice cream, either alcohol or cocaine or heroin or food in access, or pornography, or other things like that, for sex, then, you know, the attachment center is now hijacked. And now we start getting into addiction. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, a shot of heroin in the arm is pretty potent, right? You know, it's a pretty potent drug, or methamphetamine or whatever, a real potent drug. And when you're used to that type of stimulation, when I see Kevin, how does Kevin compete with a shot of, you know, methamphetamine? You know, how do I compete with a shot of methamphetamine or heroin? No, you say the heck with Vince and Kevin now. You got to go get the, you know, the heroin or the methamphetamine. No, you know, you're no longer seeking a help. You don't even care about relationships anymore. You know, drug addicts, they'll do anything to anyone to get the money for that next hit. You know, they rob from their mothers. You know, do they care about the relationship between them and their mother, or their father, or their brother, or sister, or friend at that point? No. You know, in order to feel good, in order to have a happy experience, they now must resort to that drug. You know, I used to really, back when the show first came out, I used to really like Cheers. Everybody seen that show, Cheers? And the reason why I liked it, because whenever how did they start off every episode? Exactly, Norm or Happy. When Norm would come in, everybody, hi, Norm! That's why Norm came in, because everybody was so happy to see him. You know? Or if, what was Howie, was the mailman? Hi, Howie, everybody, hi, Howard, or
Yeah, thank you.
Cliffy, okay. Hi, Cliffy, you know, or whatever. Everybody was, you know, and then the song even. You know, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And that song used to just, yeah, I used to say to myself, I don't like drinking. I don't drink. But I want to go someplace where everybody knows my name. Did you ever feel like that? I mean, I used to feel like that. I wanted to get my own Cheers. I really wanted to have a Cheers. You know, but I don't drink. You know, so what am I going to do? I mean, I never had my own Cheers. You know, it never really happened. You know, but I wanted it because the song and everything just sounded great. And I didn't realize, now I do, I just want everything that he taught. You know, I wanted to see people and have them be happy to see me, and I'll be happy to see them, you know, and all this. You know, it's called a family. You know, hopefully for everyone, it's called a family, a wife and kids, or a husband and kids, or a mother and a father, or brothers and sisters. You know, all of that. You know, that's what the holidays should be about. You know, hey, I haven't seen my brother in a while. I haven't seen grandma. I haven't seen ma, dad. You know, I've been away at school. Everybody knows my name here. You know, and they're happy to see me. And we go through that interaction from my right prefrontal cortex to their right prefrontal cortex. But what that is doing, it is releasing all of the neurochemicals for joy in my brain. It tells my amygdala, okay, everything is good. Okay? And wow, you know, then I can sit back and come from, my prefrontal cortex, not my amygdala. You know, I feel a good emotion, and that good emotion writes down that memory in the left prefrontal cortex, and I can come from the left prefrontal cortex and,
He's gonna die.
okay, and, you know, relate to everyone at the Thanksgiving dinner table or wherever it is, you know, we're having a picnic or if it's friends or whatever, having a get together. And we're in relationship with one another. And the amygdala is nice and calm. It's not sending out any distress messages, you know, to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is not sending any distress messages to the adrenal glands or the other glands that it regulates, and, you know, which is good for my health. Because when the amygdala is sending out those alert messages, that's when the body gets diseased. That causes cancer. That causes heart attacks. That causes diabetes over a period of time. Because those, you know, adrenaline and cortisone are actually poisons. They're only meant to be released into the body in severe circumstances, which should only be happening very rarely, you know, unless you're a soldier in the army. That's why many of our veterans are coming back with a lot of problems, you know, because for the last 3 years or 4 years that they were in service, they were in fight or flight all the time at a very, very high level. And the body's just not made to do that. We just don't do it very well and recover from it without a lot of help. So we have these experiences, these emotions that have set up strange patterns in our brain, so that when we get outside stimulus, the neural pathways in our brain are, you know, leading to fear or anxiety. But we can, you know, the brain being neuroplastic, we can retrain the brain so that when we get outside stimulus, we can say, wait a minute, this is only this, we can handle this, and now we can live from the prefrontal cortex or from the left hemisphere. And I like to say that the Holy Spirit resides in the prefrontal cortex, you know, that tells us to slow down, take it easy, this is okay. Yes, he's yelling and screaming at me, but forgive me. Don't react. Don't get into a screaming match with him. You know, don't, you know, get stupid or whatever. Slow down, stay calm. You know, we say that's the person, his spirit is in control of his mind and his body. But as I was talking, you know, about the prefrontal, the right prefrontal orbital, this complex, if it isn't fully developed, the rest of our brain won't fully develop either. The hemispheres, the prefrontal cortex of both hemispheres will not develop properly. They won't have the capacity that they should have, and, you know, in order to hijack, the response system away from the amygdala and the hypothalamus, to shock us out of that singlet that we're talking about. When you have an emotion of fear, it goes from the amygdala to the hypothalamus, to the cingulate, back to the amygdala, back to the hypothalamus, back to the cingulate, back. It gets in a loop. And you just stay. You ever notice that if you get scared, you get, every second that goes by, you get even more frightened? It seems like it a lot of times it seems like it builds rather than just, goes away on its own. That's because your amygdala is firing, your hypothalamus is firing, the cingulate is firing, and then the amygdala all over again. You're in that loop. And if somehow, if you don't have the right orbital cortex developed, you can't hijack that feeling out of there to get it back into the prefrontal cortex and tell yourself, calm down, it's just this, it's just that, it'll be all right, we're going to be okay, we're going to have to do this, we'll do this, and we'll do that, we'll do step one, we'll do step two, we're going to feel much better. You know, right brain, remember when we did step one and step two last time? How much better did we feel? Didn't we like that better? Then right brain is going to say, yes, that is, I remember, I feel that, I remember that, I like that much better. That feels much better than this other thing that's going on. So right brain, right prefrontal cortex is working well with the left prefrontal cortex, and we can be calm and rational. And we can hijack the emotion from the cingulate, amygdala, hypothalamus circle. We can stop that. People who are, what is it called, excessive compulsive disorder?
Obsessive.
Upset. What is it called?
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
OCD? Okay. People who are OCD can't get out of that. That's right. No matter what they do, they have to wash their hands 1,000 times, keep washing their hands or something. Because they can't break out.
Go back to lungs, if you watch lungs. You compare lungs,
they can't break out of that. But there are ways through meditation, through self-talk, prayer, and neurological exercises that will strengthen the neural pathways that lead to joy and calmness, and allow the neural pathways that lead to anxiety and fear to die off, to entropy. We make the ones to joy, strong and vigorous, and the ones to fear and anxiety, we let them kind of get feeble. We don't exercise them as much, so that we can have, the proper thoughts. And that's how neuroplasticity can actually change your brain. It's not about just talking yourself into something. It's not that I'm trying to talk myself into being calm and rational. I'm actually going to change my brain so that the automatic response is to be calm and rational instead of reactive and emotional and fearful. We can actually change our brain, and hopefully that's what we're going to be, discussing, in the meetups that we do every week, is talk about ways and experiences of retraining our brain. Hopefully by coming here on Monday nights, we are all going to wind up with new brains that are calm, brains that are rational. We're not talking about no emotion, but just being in control of the emotions to some degree. There's a time to cry, there's a time to laugh. Sometimes crying is good for us, but then it comes a time when we need to stop, and we need to come back to some type of an equilibrium. What I want to go over, listen, we're going to need 2 chairs. You and I are going to demonstrate.
Okay.
I guess we'll
stop this one.
I guess, to tell you the truth, in a way, I guess maybe you can just come back here. If you step back here behind the desk with me, will you be on camera? I mean, you have to zoom out a little bit on both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. That way we don't have to go through moving the cat. Let's grab a fold-up chair and bring it back here.
And this is a great exercise. And you love more, you couple.
Leslie really likes this. I actually think it's kind of corny.
But
Would it work?
dopamine is
That's
released.
What does that mean? What problem do I have? Because I think it's mushy. It's not macho. And you love it. Can you get in it?
It's the nurturing thing. Women are born nurturers, right? Men have to learn, some men have to learn how to nurture. And he
Okay.
wasn't nurtured enough as a child, I'll tell you right now. So he needs this, even if he thinks it's goofy.
That's not true.
Yeah.
No. This area of the brain, the right prefrontal orbital, complex, is developed between the mother and the baby. When we were born and our mothers held us, she automatically looked into our right eye. And we automatically looked into hers. And what does mommy do when she looks at the baby? Smiles, hi, peekaboo, hi, peekaboo, and mommy's always looking at the baby, and the baby's looking back at mommy's face and everything, and, studies have shown that, babies and kids, they prefer the voice, of mommy or of a woman as opposed to, hi, I'm your father, like Luke,
Yeah, Darth Vader.
Darth Vader, I'm your father. Okay? They prefer, hi, this is mommy, they like that. I don't, want to hear about Darth Vader right now, And those, primarily, it's a visual cue. And it stimulates the right prefrontal orbital complex. It stimulates it, and it makes it grow. And when it gets stimulated and it grows, it sits out, releases neurochemicals that make other areas of the brain grow. So it's essential for the growth of the baby's brain to have that type of stimulation from mommy, okay, on a regular basis, in order for the brain, to grow properly. Physically grow and develop. The good thing is, okay, if what do people like to say about people if they're really mean and nasty or something, or they got a problem? They say, oh, he wasn't breastfed as a baby, was he? It's funny. It's funny in our humor. In our humor, we get it exactly correct. It's funny that we can get. It's not so much the breastfeeding. Is that as the baby is breastfeeding, mommy is looking at the baby and smiling and talking to the baby and making those faces and everything. It's more because of that visual stimulation than it is just the breastfeeding. Is helping also. Bringing the child close to your chest and everything, but it's more from this visual than anything else. And since the brain is neuroplastic, it's not too late to stimulate that area. That's what's absolutely fantastic. Even though you didn't maybe get the time with mom that you really need for this area to really be stimulated and grow and stimulate the growth of the rest of your brain, you can still do something about it now with this exercise. And basically what we're going to do, you want to sit basically about, with your knees touching, and you want to get an egg timer and maybe put it on,
Look at that for us.
put it on 3 minutes or 5 minutes, because you don't want to worry about the time. something that will let you know when 5 minutes or 3 minutes are up. And what you do is you look at, and you only do this with either a bonded, a loved one, husband and wife, siblings, parent and child, that sort of thing. Just don't do this with your drinking buddies. It's not a good idea. If you want to create a stalker in your life, do this. This develops very strong attachments. Okay? So you just don't do it with, any boyfriend or girlfriend you may be seeing this week. Like I said, if you want to have someone stalk you, do this, with someone who you don't really want in your life over a long period of time. Okay? You do this between husband and wife, brother, siblings, brother, sister, sister, grandma, auntie, people in your definitely in your inner core here, So be careful. Just don't jump out there and do this, because you're sitting on the train on your way to work and you want to try something, whatever. But for 5 minutes, say, and you can vary the time, you want to sit there and look at each other and focus your eyesight into their right eye. And your partner will focus their eyesight into your right eye. Now, while we're doing that, we're going to smile. We're going to send
feedback.
A message of, hey, I'm, love,
All positive thoughts.
I'm happy to see
Everything
you,
you can think of.
joy. I'm going to make Anil and Vina do this next. Okay? And tell us how you feel when you do it. Okay? Ready, set, go. And it's not a staring contest. Okay? You're supposed to break whenever you feel like breaking.
You don't just stare, you little
Okay.
away, and you turn,
Yeah.
and give it again.
It's not, when I say look away, I don't mean shut it down. And just, avert your gaze, naturally, and pick it up again. Because life is not continually joy. So what the baby is learning is that there are moments of joy, and there are moments when he's on his own, when he has to be on his own. But the joy will come back. So that breaking, that natural interval of breaking, whenever you feel like it, just naturally, teaches you and teaches the baby that joy comes, and even when there is no joy, it will come back. Therefore, the baby doesn't develop what you call separation anxiety. Every time mommy goes away, the baby becomes, you've seen kids like that. Okay? So, break it at regular intervals, whenever you feel like it. We'll try it again. See, she just gets goofy with it. I almost can't do it with her. It's like, calm down, please. You're like giving me an overload here. It has such an effect on her.
Just as effective. Yeah, I'm getting through him very well.
Oh, you want to do it some more then?
So I could do it all night. Okay. You guys get the idea.
Okay. Your turn next.
We don't have to go a whole 5 minutes, but just practice. I will do. Yes. I'm getting another chair, okay?
Uh-oh, we're on camera.
Oh, so you're not on?
That's okay.
You don't want to be on camera?
No.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't bother me. She's already short, so she's going down.
Okay.
Right up on the chair.
Just so,
Put on the
just close enough to for where your knees are kind of touching or you feel comfortable.
over here a little bit.
Okay, that's good, that's good. No, straight ahead, straight ahead. Okay, all righty. Okay, listen up, people who are out there in internet land. It's gonna be quiet because, oh, well, no, they don't wanna be on camera, so I'll let it stay. I'll get back behind the desk and let it stay. I'll tell you in just a second. Can you see me?
Look at his right preorbit form.
Right, you're gonna look at his right eye, he's gonna look at your right eye. Be sure to smile and say good. Okay, ready? Ready? Ready, set, go.
Right.
No talking, just good smiles. We'll do maybe 1 or 2 minutes. No touching, Emil, this is a family show. No talking, no talking. Don't forget to break and look away from time to time. That's it.
Looking everywhere. Who's looking at her?
You're doing
Reminds
fine.
me of like when we were growing up as kids in India, we would have like staring contests, like who would blink, who could
Oh, who was linked
stare
first?
the longest, or who, if somebody blinks first, they lose.
We lose.
Yeah.
It's not a staring contest. Just relax.
And after a while, you'll be able to actually, when you come to the left, you'll be able to, after you exercise, or that you receive, you will share with them that you felt they were saying to you how to accomplish that.
'Cause you gotta be serious, Emil. You're worse than me. Now, does that mean that emotion is welling up in him, and us men, we can't take that, and so blah, 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 blah. $30 seconds.
Like 3 years.
I think we'll do this again next week, and I want, on tape, I want them to see Leslie's face. How she, kind of, it's like, scary. Okay. You guys didn't obey all the rules. You gotta be serious, but what did you feel?
Right.
Did you feel any, how did you feel during that time?
This is made a little joke here. That's why
No.
you're right. We did not obey the rules.
No, you made a joke, but I think I felt, it was different.
You felt something?
Yes, I don't know how to express it in words.
Mm-hmm. Was it a good feeling?
Yeah, good feeling.
It was a good feeling. Your body language to me seemed to change. Like you were receiving something, like you got a charge a little bit, And even with Emil too, I think that's maybe why you kind of, clowned a little bit, because you didn't quite know what you were feeling and you weren't used to it, It feels a bit funny at first, because if you start feeling something, you don't know what to do with it. You're not used to receiving,
Like
intensity.
energy, or maybe if I may even call energy.
Energy.
Right.
That's interesting. You even feel energy.
Yeah.
Okay. So you even feel an energy. You say you describe it as an energy and as a feeling, but it's interesting. We need to have a greater sampling. See what people feel about that. But that's actually releasing all kinds of neurochemicals for joy, and it's strengthening that structure back. It's making it stronger. And this is a good exercise to do, maybe on a daily basis for 5-10 minutes a day. Now, each week I want to give you a new neural exercise to do.
Okay.
And you guys can go home and practice each one. You can do them, maybe continually or, experiment with it. Next time you're having to get together with friends, show them, ask them, tell them, how to do it, and ask them what they're experiencing with it, and we're beginning the process of actually changing our brain by doing it.
How would you define neuroplasticity? What you started with neuroplasticity?
Right.
Well, how do you define it? What's the definition?
The definition is the ability of the brain to change, to physically change its neural pathways. This is good not only in relationships, but for stroke victims who maybe can't move the left side of their body anymore because that part of the brain is dead. They can't use it anymore. They may not be able to redevelop that brain area, but they can, the part of the prefrontal cortex that tells, say, the left arm to move, they can develop a new pathway back to the body so that they can recover movement and motion again. So, that's, one area of neuroplasticity for stroke victims or people who have had traumatic brain injury to recover full body motion again. Okay? And also for people in relationship to develop full joy. So you can either use neuroplasticity to recover full movement in your body if you're recovering from a stroke or if you've had some kind of a brain injury, or if you're just not a fully developed relational human being, to recover the full range of emotions that you should experience and proper control of those emotions, and strengthen your relationship bonds and cues and things. So you can use it for a lot of things. Perhaps you want to get a promotion at work, and you want to be more vibrant. You want to be more assertive at work. You want to be more confident at work. You want to exude confidence, and or you're starting a new business, and you want to believe in that business. You want to believe that it's going to work. You want to stay positive. You can use neuroplasticity in order to accomplish goals, so that when maybe the first quarter sales aren't as good as you would have liked them to be, you don't go, oh no, we're going broke, I'm ruining my life, we're never going to recover, I should have never done this, I should have kept, you don't start talking to yourself like that. You stay positive, you stay calm, you start thinking of ways to increase sales or what have you, or to make it work, and then you go and implement with authority and with confidence that new plan. So it's all about reprogramming your brain. Reprogramming the brain, whether it's for business accomplishment, whether it's for regaining bodily functions, whether it's for increased pleasure in your relationships, it doesn't matter. every aspect. If you want a more spiritual life, you know, every religion has its belief system, and it doesn't work unless you believe. You know, one of the reasons why you may have trouble believing, it could be your brain is not fully developed to allow you to do that. That's why I was saying earlier, you know, are you sure you have the hardware for the program that you want to, you know, download it in? You know, you may not have the hardware for the program. You may need a, you know, a new motherboard. But since the brain is neuroplastic, you can get that new motherboard that you need. And Kevin, I haven't forgot about you. I mean, you know, your body language is like,
Okay.
but come over here. Let me see your face. Let me let you know that I'm still glad you're here. You're hanging in here. Okay. If you're alone, the same exercise, you can still do this exercise. Okay. What you would do is get a picture that you have of something that you really like, something that brings out very pleasant memories, you know, okay? And do the same thing. Just look at that picture and you smile. Let that, you know, think about all of the pleasant memories that surround that picture or image. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a photographic. It could be anything that just, you know, really brings happiness to you. You might even have 2 or 3 pictures and just spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes look and remember all the pleasure of what happened in that picture that day. This was just a wonderful day. You know, maybe it's your graduation picture. Maybe it's a picture with you and your parents on graduation. And you might just remember, you know, Dad was really happy, was really proud of me. Mom was really happy, and she was very proud of me. I was proud of myself. I felt great. I had just accomplished. It was just a wonderful time. There was a terrific party the night before. Had a lot of fun with my friends. Or after graduation, there was a terrific party, or whatever. You know, anything that will bring back really great memories.
Good positive things.
So, you know, even if you're, you know, don't have someone you can, you know, be safe in doing this exercise with, you can do it, you know, with pictures and things like that. So, you single people, don't despair. Still do this exercise. Still use, you know, your right eye to still, you know, to really focus at that picture. You know, and if you're looking at a picture, maybe even tilt the head a little bit and get a stronger view with the right eye if you're just using a picture, you know, so that you can really get the stimulation into the, you know, the right, you know, orbital prefrontal cortex. And so this is neurological. This, believe me, you are retraining your brain doing this exercise. The structure is changing, it's strengthening, and the rest of your brain is going to follow suit. It's going to be a domino effect.
One more thing, if you don't like a person, you might look at it and you may start having a positive about that person. Can you do it? The person you hate, get this picture and trying to develop like positive side.
That would do something for you.
It would be great if you can do that. And of
I'm
course,
saying, yeah,
and of
you're
course,
practicing with a picture without that person.
I see what you're saying.
So you may start, wait, and just like you said, think about the good things.
You can always see good in everyone.
Everyone. And pick 2 things, and you may not hate that person more. I'm looking at a different way.
I think that's an excellent point. I think that is good because when you do look at people, you can begin to see the good.
Good, and then
And build on that. You know,
By the
and
time
that,
you may not hate that person, and that may see, wait,
and
why
that-
did I hate that person? It's still some good in there.
the thing about it, it doesn't matter if that person reciprocates or not. You're doing that for you.
For you.
Right, right.
That's
Okay.
like you training
You're,
yourself.
you know, you're making your, you know, you're telling yourself not to get upset with this person, not to get into hate, because anytime you get into hatred, you know,
Exactly, that's good.
you're only killing yourself. That, you know, hatred is just a negative emotion.
Negative.
It has no good can come out of it.
Totally destructive.
It's just, no good comes out of it whatsoever. If you can stay away from hatred and anger, if you can come back to at least some kind of middle ground without that hatred, you know, and anger, because it's just, my goodness, you're going from amygdala to hypothalamus, to cingulus, back to amygdala, and all that's doing is killing you, shortening your lifespan, making you prone to heart disease, diabetes, all kinds of other dysfunctions physically in your body. You know, let alone, you know, you ever have a bad day? You know, something bad happens and it ruins, you can't enjoy anything else. You know, something that you should enjoy, it ruins
Totally
it.
ruin your peace.
You know, so you just never want to let someone have that much effect over your life.
Exactly.
You know, you don't want to let's give someone that much power in your life. To be, you know, to be angry for that long and let it build into hate, bitterness, and, you know, because what's worse, what if it goes into your subconscious mind? And you know, and it's a subconscious memory that your amygdala is accessing, and you don't even know that it's still accessing that memory. That's what's really, really bad. That's what we really are trying to do with neuroplasticity. We're trying to get rid of those subconscious messages that we don't know we're even thinking anymore.
Right, because you don't know, it's subconscious.
You know,
But you ever notice some people who you do something slight, and this happened just the other day, I was telling Vince, I was at Walmart, and there's two people who were handicapped. One girl had a surgery on her foot, but she had one leg out with some metal prods in her leg, and her leg was swollen. And another older lady was in the, you know, steering wheel go-karts. If you're handicapped, you have to ride the go-karts to shop.
little scooter.
The scooter thing she was shopping with, they hit into each other at the end of the aisle. Now, they both reacted violently. They did not just, oh man, I'm sorry, you know, they're like, the lady with the surgery hit the lady like, watch where you're going, watch where you're going. And the older lady was like, she was crabby and grumpy, and she was like, what the heck? They just started cussing at each other, yelling, getting irate. It was ridiculous. They couldn't stop. They didn't just say a few words. They kept going and going and going, and it was getting worse and worse and worse until the management came out. I had to approach before the management came out, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to go in here and make sure they don't hurt each other and worse, because they're both handicapped. I mean, you know, what stupid can you get? And I was like, you don't want to make things worse. So I went up there and said, are you okay? And she's still yelling at her. I said, are you okay? And she couldn't stop. I tapped her on her shoulder, are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I'm okay. And then another lady, the same thing. I said, you okay? And, you know, just to let them know, hey, it's all right,
okay.
you're okay, it's okay. But they were overreacting. That's all it was, is just something in the subconscious, and they got triggered, and they're overreacted from whatever it is that was going on that they didn't even know was going on in their head. In their, what you say, the hypothalamus? Where is the subconscious?
Oh, the subconscious. I think it's the half of that. I'll do a little research.
But that, it just triggered it.
And
That's not a normal reaction.
Where does memory go? I believe it's the hypothalamus.
Right.
You know, but I'll find out for sure about that. But that's, you know, we tend to, you know, they say, the Bible says a kind word turns away wrath. So since both of them were in wrath, they were just feeding each other, and they got into that
Over and over,
loop, and kept over and over. I remember when I was a teenager, I got in a car accident. Totally my fault. Guy ran into me, but it was my fault. I turned in front of him, and he ran into me. And he got out, he was really mad, because, new driver, I just turned right in front of him. He had no choice but to run into me. And he got out, he was all mad. I think he was yelling and cussing at first. And I knew it was my fault, so what could I say? And first he was just yelling out, and screaming. And finally, all of a sudden, he just stopped. Because I didn't give him any extra, feedback for that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, you all right? You all right? My mother was with me because I think I was still on my student driving thing. And he calmed, and he just totally calmed down completely, because I stayed calm and didn't feed him. And I'll tell you, if we don't have time, I'll tell you another story
I know
one of these days about that too. That's on another thing.
Possible.
Well, it doesn't look like, we didn't get a chance to talk about Kabbalah this time, but I think we set the foundation with neuroplasticity. So next time, we'll start off on Kabbalah and how neuroplasticity feeds into Kabbalah perfectly. It's like it's the most perfect doctrine for neuroplasticity.
What's the definition of Kabbalah?
Okay, definition. It actually means the receiving. A definition of Kabbalah. I don't think there is one.
Receiving what?
I say
Oh
light.
boy.
I just say light.
Light?
Receiving light, wisdom. That's what I think. That's my own, but.
Kabbalah. Let me see if I can come up with a good definition of Kabbalah. I read something today. I was reading a book today about tarot cards in Kabbalah. And the guy who wrote the book is he's a Jewish gentleman. And he spent time in yeshiva over in Israel. And he was saying that his mentor, the guy who actually taught him Kabbalah, he said his mentor actually met Sigmund Freud. And Sigmund Freud, when they met, his rabbi said to Sigmund Freud, what is this psychology thing or something like that? And Sigmund Freud says it's the reality and the something. I'm going to find that and read that to you.
Let me read this to you so you'll
Go ahead.
It says right here. Basic, Kabbalah is a Hebrew word from the root Kabel, K-A-B-E-L, which means receive, simply to receive. A Kabbalah is a received teaching or tradition. The Kabbalah refers specifically to the body of received mystical teachings of the Torah. That's what it says. It has different spellings, it has different, been falsely used in many different ways by charlatans, leading detractors to associate it with magic and witchcraft, which are the very opposite of the true Kabbalah.
I don't think that as answering your question is.
No, I mean, I only got, receiving something.
Right.
Some kind of energy.
It's from the word Kabbalah. It means to receive. Kabbalah itself is basically receiving.
Don't try.
Wisdom.
Can you do me a favor? Can you get my iPad? I want to get that quote. Get my iPad.
What? Can you use your laptop?
No. It's. I was reading an ebook. I believe I can find it very quickly, and then
And then I was, on the Pride and Recovery, so is it saying that there are 12 steps or things you do to bring the joy and the...
No, they were talking.
What was he saying?
He was referring to a program that was started in the 30s here to help alcoholics, stop drinking. They call it Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. And their program, they call it the 12-step program. And that's what he was referring to. Actually, in the Thrive, there are actually 19 different neurological brain skills that they use. You know, they're moving from a recovery aspect. I'm not always going to be following them, you know, but we're going to use a lot actually. Okay, where is Okay, here. Okay, books, Kindle. Right. Okay. Let me. It's nearly in. Let's see if I can. Okay. Again. Into the glossary.
Can't find it.
It's back. I think I'll get it. Oh, okay, here, got it. Okay, once, many years ago, on a trip to Vienna, my spiritual teacher met Sigmund Freud. What is psychology? My teacher asked Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud responded, there is a world of the head and a world of the heart. Dr. Freud explained. Psychology is the science of that schism, the world of the head and the world of the heart. Psychology is the science of that distance. Okay? Then looking over his glasses at my teacher, the doctor asked, what about you? What is Kabbalah? His teacher responded to Sigmund Freud, there is a world of the head and a world of the heart. Agreed, my teacher said. Kabbalah is the bridge.
Oh, Kabbalah is a bridge between head and the heart.
Good.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's a bridge.
That's nice one.
A bridge between the head and the heart. A bridge between the seen and the unseen. And so the receiving here in this world of what is unseen.
That's very high.
That's good. You're meditating on that. You're getting neural pathways.
Say that again, of the receiving.
The receiving.
What did you just say? That was
Being the receiving of the unseen. Possible. I mean, philosophically, we could be here forever and come up with definitions of what Kabbalah is. Next week, I'm going to show you, and then you can form your own opinion or conclusion. No one has ever asked me exactly what is the definition of Kabbalah. That is a good, I'm going to have to ponder that and do some writing. Now, Kevin, you've had some friends that told you what Kabbalah is. How did they actually say what Kabbalah is?
More akin to sort of Jewish mysticism.
They just said it's Jewish mysticism.
But, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the public
I'm sorry,
perception.
now it's mysticism.
You know, peering into the unknown.
Anything that cannot be explained by chemistry and physics, you can say. You know, the unknown, the supernatural, that sort of thing. Anything that's spiritual.
Spiritual. Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
No
very
problem.
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Good.
You guys are gonna, you know, together we're gonna write a definition. Together we will write and craft a definition for Kabbalah.
I'm curious to learn, you're saying, how the neuroplasticity, how one can develop the different pathways. Let's put it that way.
All right.
We are definitely,
Change perception.
Not perception.
Well,
the way of
how you
thinking.
how you receiving it or redirect it, like.
Change your characteristics. Basically, if you can change brain, you change yourself.
You change everything.
You change
we
everything.
got it. Oral Roberts says, change your brain,
Change your mind.
change your mind, change your world.
Put
Dr.
your
Hawkins said, he said two things, change your brain, change your body,
Body.
change your brain, what was the other one?
Change your life.
Change your life. And he's actually talking about physical change. You remember when you saw the brain scans, the SPECT scans of, a normal healthy brain was full and smooth, and when they took the same scans of people who, of an 18-year-old kid who just smoked marijuana on the weekend, not even every day, just on the weekend, and you saw all these holes.
Of activity.
Okay, it wasn't that there's an actual physical hole in his brain, but that area has no longer ceases to function. Is dead. It doesn't work. It might as well be a hole. It doesn't work anymore. And so by smoking marijuana, you can actually make your brain on a scan look just like the brain of someone who had a stroke, and their brain is actually dead in certain areas.
I see.
No activity.
Okay? And so,
No light. That's what I was.
It's not light.
Is so important to understand the concept of light.
that's why it's so hard to reason with people who take drugs. They're not even using a whole brain. Rational thought and reason just become myths to them. They're almost just incapable. And we caught a glimpse of one other scan. The guy was showing, even if you stop, it doesn't, sometimes the brain does not fully recover. But you can get around it and make new neural pathways so that you can still function. But those areas that you destroy may not ever function again. Just like, in a stroke, the stroke part of the brain dies because blood doesn't get to it for a period of time. And the same thing happens with drug use. It's interesting, they just made marijuana legal
Right.
in Colorado.
That's horrible.
And,
I don't
I think it has different benefits. They really believe that it has health benefits,
How can-
well, it does if you're really sick.
Really
If you're really a cancer patient and you're trying to, overcome the effects of chemo and that's all you use it for, that's one thing. But if you just want to, hey, today is Monday.
For the pleasure, that's,
Right. The pleasure is not a good thing.
that's not,
Yeah.
that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's-
Just,
I agree.
it becomes a beat. It's hijacking normal relationship. If I can feel good just sitting back on my cigarette, smoking, then I don't want to go out and meet Anil and Vina and, develop a relationship with them and be happy to see them and they're happy to see me and we share and relate and, ask questions that stimulate each other and, and we feel good because we're stimulating one another. Wow, that's great. Wow, what a question. And we explore the answer together. Fantastic. But if I can just do that with that,
Something not right.
yeah, absolutely.
See, you thinking it's the positive, by looking at the human being, social life, it's much better. Solution is better than the physical medicine or anything like
Absolutely.
that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Let's go on sleeping.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Hope you guys can make it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,